Hello and welcome to another testing notebook here for day 2 at Bahrain. Day 2 has finished for today, and all in all, I want to start quickly with Renault. And obviously they didn't have the best of days yesterday with Red Bull, Lotus or Toro Rosso, but they had a much better day today. Thank God for Renault and thank God for Red Bull, Toro Rosso and Caterham and Lotus. But Lotus didn't have a strong day either today. They only completed about 18 laps, I think, completed officially. But you know, we'll get into their problems later. But Red Bull did considerably much more laps. You know, you're starting to look like they're moving forward, and whatever problem they are having looks like it is being fixed. And we could probably see them being a bit more competitive later on in the test sessions. And Toro Rosso also doing a large number of laps as well after only completing 5 yesterday. But the big news of today was Bernie Ecclestone winning his court case over the bribery charges to earlier today. So he was in 2006, a German media company sued him of £85 million, 140 million euros for causing them to leave Formula 1 due to some sort of bribery charges. It's very complicated. But anyway, the only interesting thing is obviously a couple of weeks ago, before the actual court case itself, he stood down from the board of F1 in order until the case was resolved. And now that the case has been resolved and he's been found not guilty, it'll be interesting to see now whether he will resume his position on the board of Formula 1 in the near future, or if he's not reinstated later on, which could mean that maybe he could be finishing or maybe thinking of retiring if he doesn't want to go back onto the board of F1. But as we have to still remember, he is still running the day-to-days action of Formula 1, so he's still highly in charge of the sport. But you know, whether he'll be back on the board of Formula 1 is still yet to be seen. But look at for today's reaction, we had 4 red flags today, 2 for Mercedes, surprisingly. Quite early on in the session, they had a few reliability problems, but they were able to fix them, and they got some good solid running with Nico Rosberg earlier today. And then we have 1 for Jean-Eric Vergne, who stopped on track, and same with Esteban Gutierrez, who stopped a couple of hours before the end of the test session. So I switched my notebook around. But yeah, a lot more running today. But Lotus struggled, so we're going to Lotus. Lotus struggled. They could be struggling, because they missed the first test in Jerez. You'd think like all the teams had installation problems at the beginning of the Jerez test, and this is what a lot of people said. You know, by Lotus missing the first test of the season, you know, would be a problem because they'd missed this installation period, and therefore they could fall further behind at the moment. So if they do fall behind the rest of the field and then development program, because they're trying to fix the problems that they have at the moment, rather than thinking of how they could possibly develop the car because they want to fix the base problems of the car at the moment. They did better than probably what most teams did when they struggled with installation problems like Red Bull and Toro Rosso with the Renault packages in Jerez, because they managed to do 18 laps today, whereas, you know, at a time when the installation problems were occurring, you had Red Bull doing only 3 or 4 laps, or not even any laps at all, because of the problems that they were facing. But it'd be interesting to see if that actually does affect the developments of the Lotus car, and whether or not it won't be able to move on in Melbourne, to see if they're actually with the rest of the field, because it's such a, we don't know at the moment. This is the beauty of testing. You know, we see the times are irrelevant. We don't know how it's actually affecting their development process, which should be interesting. But going into lap times for today, so Kevin Magnussen was quick today. He did a 1 minute 34.9. Second was Nico Hülkenberg, again near the top of the timesheets, was top yesterday. He did a 1 minute 36.4, and Magnussen 45 laps, whereas Hülkenberg did 59. Alonso was third with a 1 minute 36.5. netting him 96 laps in total. Rosberg, despite the early troubles at the start of the session, completed the 84 laps, and he did a 1 minute 36.9. Bottas was in 5th. He did the most laps of anybody today, with 115 laps in total, and his quickest time was a 1 minute 37.3. Kamui Kobayashi in the Caterham was 6th with a 1 minute 39.8, completing 65 laps. Caterham seems to be always lapping in about 60 lap margin, seems to be a familiar topic. Sebastian Vettel was in 7th with 1 minute 40.6. He completed 58 laps today. 8th was Jean-Eric Vergne with a 1 minute 40.717. And he completed 58 laps. Gutierrez was 9th with 1 minute 40.7 in the highs. Grosjean 10th with 1 minute 41.6, completing, as I said, 18 laps. And maybe Marussia having a bit of trouble as well here at Bahrain, only completing 17 laps. They didn't complete any laps yesterday with Jules Bianchi, and Chilton did a 1 minute 42.5. But Graham Lowland said in an interview that they are expecting, or they are hoping, that they could be fighting for Q2s on a regular basis and be much more competitive this season from the data that they've said. Maybe you might not be too wise to say that at this moment in time, but you know, that is what's coming out of the Marussia camp. But I just want to have a look at Kevin Magnussen's time, because Kevin Magnussen's time is actually quite a good time and where we thought they would be. And if you look at his time, he did a 1 minute 34.9, and then if you compare that to Rosberg's pole lap time, he's only 2.5 seconds shy of that, because he did a 1 minute 32, did Rosberg, well, 1 minute 33, sorry. It's about 2.5 seconds away from the pace, and if Magnussen were to have done that lap in qualifying last season, he would have put himself 18th on the grid, which isn't bad. And considering at the moment teams have been saying that they're only running at 80 to 90% of maximum power, so that could probably show that we probably will have still some competitive times, despite obviously the engine being a lot slower than it was, or a lot smaller than it was compared to last year. So that is probably good, whether or not, like, speed wise, and you know, there was a lot of worries saying, will we be quicker than GP2 cars, and will GP2 cars be quicker than Formula 1 cars under the regulations? And at the moment it does look like that Formula 1 should keep its way by being at the top and keeping hold of being the pinnacle of motorsport and the fastest motorsport out there. But really, that's all that's really left for me to say. It was a pretty good day, a lot of laps done as I predicted yesterday, because there was not many laps done yesterday. But you know, Bottas definitely getting over 115 laps, and Williams are looking really happy at the moment with their package, and they think they can definitely push on, and they could have quite a competitive season, maybe like they had in 2012, and hopefully they can just skip away from the 2013 season. Because that was a pretty poor campaign compared to their 2012 one. But that is all that's really left for me to say. Thank you so much for listening to